Some of the most collectible American helmets from World War II are those that have had painted markings added to them. Among these painted helmets, a certain type stands out, those with the large red crosses that belong to combat medics. Now, before we talk about the helmets, I want to give you a little bit of information on medics in general. It is fairly common knowledge that medics were considered non-combatants and protected by a Geneva Convention. Now, there have been several Geneva Conventions, but the one that this is referencing is the Geneva Convention of 1929. This document states that in order to be considered a medic, you must wear an armband on your left arm with the Red Cross symbol and carry a document that identifies you as medical personnel. The document or ID card would have a special number in it, which would also be stamped on the inside of the armband. So, how does all of that stuff relate to painting red crosses on helmets? Well, it turns out that often the singular armband was not enough to identify medics in the field, and a solution was needed to reduce their casualties. At first, medics started simply wearing two armbands or tying one around their helmets, and over time this evolved to simply painting the markings on. So now let's take a look at some of these markings, which, as you can tell from the pictures in this video, varied widely. I should also say that the reason for this variance is because there were no official regulations as to how they were supposed to be painted, and they were pretty much always applied by hand with a brush or a stencil. The size and amount of markings also seems to depend on how late in the war the picture was taken and which theater the soldier was stationed in. Towards the end of the war, medics began to make their helmets a bit more distinctive. Now, collectors generally categorize the helmets according to how many crosses or panels they have, with 5 normally being the maximum. Some medical personnel even went as far as to paint their entire helmet white before applying the crosses, though this was generally only done in winter for obvious reasons. You will also notice that some of the helmets have a series of numbers painted on top of them. This is the Geneva Convention ID number that I mentioned earlier in the video. Painted markings continued to be used after World War II in Korea and to a much lesser extent during Vietnam as well. Now, the last picture I want to show you is probably my favorite showing medics because it demonstrates the many different types of markings being used in the field. Finally, please be careful when purchasing painted helmets of any type. The hand-applied nature of these makes them very easy to fake, so you're going to want to do a lot of research on what to look for before making a purchase. Well, I hope you enjoyed this short video. If you'd like to see more videos like this on militaria and military history every week, please consider subscribing. Thank you.